let's talk Anthony Richardson, if you don't mind. I know you don't coach him. The idea is that he needs some time, maybe full year. You said you were on the. You told the Dolphins put you on the quote unquote Aaron Rodgers plan when they drafted you. Do you think he does need to sit?
Here's what I'll say about all quarterbacks. I think it helps all quarterbacks to spend some time learning, developing, growing, watching somebody run the offense effectively. I know that there's those guys like a Matt Ryan, a Joe Flacco, a Justin Herbert, where they play early and you look at it and things are working, right? A lot of the times, run game, defense, play pass, like those things can help a young quarterback. But let's say you don't have those things, right? It's just, it makes it tougher. I look at Anthony and I see somebody that's extremely talented, right? You don't have to be a quarterback coach to be able to recognize physical gifts. The guy's physically talented. I've never sat in the meeting room with him. I've never sat in the offensive, watching the game after the game, going over stuff with him. I don't know how he processes, but you look at talent and you say, based off of what I know about quarterbacks and how much it can help a quarterback to spend some time, I would assume that he would be a guy that, with given the right time, it's going to benefit him, especially if he can watch somebody perform it successfully. I think one of the toughest things is when you're playing young as a quarterback in a struggling situation, you're not watching the offense run the way that maybe like it can be efficiently.
Yes.
You're watching the offense kind of sputter. Okay, now it's your turn to go in and see if you can make something happen. Well, when you're a young quarterback and you're being asked to do better than a veteran that's been there before, and he's sputtering, that can be tough. So to him, I think, man, like getting him in a situation where he can watch somebody run an effective NFL offense and learn and grow from that, and especially have a veteran quarterback that's willing to share. Sometimes a quarterback can kind of like put his foot in the ground and say, I'm not here to mentor a young guy. That's not my job. I'm here to win football games. And I respect that mindset, right? That's why they're being paid millions to win football games.
Right.
But there's also those guys that they understand, I was once a young guy. I know what it's like to have questions. I know what it's like to try to learn. And that's why somebody like, I played with Josh McCown. I know he's going to be a fantastic coach because he's been that guy. He was that guy for Sam Darnold. He's been that guy for so many young quarterbacks. I'm here to win football games, but I also understand what it's like to be in your shoes. I'll help you develop. I do think for Anthony, that can help.
Well, Vegas might be a spot for him, and obviously Jimmy G might fit that. Good guy, veteran who wants to win games, but will help somebody develop. Although they would have completely different skill sets, I would think. And then there's the idea that he might wind up in Indianapolis, where there's a new head coach, Shane Steichen, who did have Herbert, as a quarterbacks coach when he was a rookie. We just saw what Jalen Hurts was able to do over the last couple of years. Yep. But there's no veteran that's sitting right there, pretty much, right?
No,
the cupboard is totally bare on that front.
I love Shane. I've known Shane for a long time, and I think he's great for young quarterbacks. Like you said, helping develop Justin Herbert, really getting Jalen really on that track to be a premier player in the league that he is. So he's a guy that does have experience. But you're right, Indy probably has some things that they have to figure out in terms of that quarterback room. If they do bring in a top pick at quarterback, is their plan to start him right away? Is their plan to have a veteran there? I mean, I just think and I know you and I talked a little bit of Zach Wilson during the break, right?
Yes.
I look at a player like Zach who has tons of talent. It would have benefited him when he first got to New York to have a veteran there that could really kind of just him watch and learn from, because you learn so much from watching a guy go out to practice, watching how he functions in the meeting room, watching how he watches his own tape, being able to ask him questions on the sideline. I remember being a second-year player in the league, a whole new staff comes in, they bring in Chad Pennington. Although that second year I never played in a game, I learned so much from Chad Pennington. Being a young quarterback in the league, having somebody that you can just watch and soak in information from helps so much. Some guys really need it.
Well, I want to put a pin in Zach Wilson for a second, and we'll return to that. I'll pull the pin out in a second, which is not a euphemism for anything about what's going on with him in New York. But would you mind telling the story about when you first met Anthony Richardson? I kind of overheard you tell that story at the Combine.
Oh, yeah, that's right, the Combine. That's right. You were sitting by Daniel Jeremiah and I. That's right.
I just love this story.
I'm throwing with, I believe it was either Jay Kaner or Jaron Hall. We were warm, throwing in the Combine. You have all those days leading up to the actual field day that you're not touching a football. So, we're throwing balls there in the convention center, letting him throw a little bit. And this guy standing next to me I think he was in a hoodie. I assumed it was a defensive player. I assumed it was a linebacker. And I'm throwing the ball back, and he's like, oh, still spinning it, huh? And I'm like, oh, those days are past, man. I'm like, this is their turn to do this. And the guy was super cool, super kind. And I'm thinking, this is a defensive player leaving this meeting room, and he's just wanting to chat a little bit. And so I walk back over to the quarterbacks and they go, hey, what did Anthony Richardson say to you? And I was like, I didn't talk to Anthony Richardson. They're like, that guy that was standing there in the hoodie, that was Anthony Richardson. And I was like, I thought that was a linebacker.
He's that big.
Yeah, physically just, you know, I mean, he looks the part, right? Wow.
Jeez, he sure
yeah,
does.
I mean, and it's no knock, right? Like I'd watched a bunch of Anthony's games, but I'm watching with the helmet on. Like,
yeah, sure.
I don't have everybody memorized without their helmet on of what they look like. And just based off of his structure, I mean, you see it in that picture, like the neck, the frame, how wide his shoulders were. I mean, I assumed I'm talking to a linebacker that's a, you know, good dude wanting to chat it up a little bit.
I guess, and with Will Levis too, he's yoked up also.
Yeah.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern for free.